Good morning and welcome to Veronica Live. This is the COVID Unplugged show today. The COVID Queen is here as your host, and I am death warmed over, John.
Veronica, I hope you get to feel better. I mean, you sound definitely like you got something.
Oh my gosh, it has been literally awful. I came down, I was getting sick like Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday it came a crash and crash and burn. So I definitely have COVID. I went to the doctor Thursday, and it's like the flu though. So I've had the fever, the body aches, a terrible headache. So I literally just popped some Dayquil and my steroids. So hopefully I will get through the show. Oh my goodness.
So did you get your COVID cocktail from? I'm trying to remember who the doctor was we had on.
Dr. Flynn, his nurse
Dr. Flynn,
practitioner, hooked me
yeah.
up. I got a steroid shot, and then they have this awesome shot for headaches, but it only lasts like 12 hours. So I'm back to the COVID nightmare. And actually, it's like a bad flu, I have to tell you. So I am not 100%, but we're going to go for it. I could only get through one of our books because sometimes we get our books late. So sadly, I canceled the big Intel author, and I'll try to get him rebooked for next week because these books they're juicy and substantial, and they're about saving America, John. And so, I don't have anybody on if I don't read your book. And
and it's very, very timely too. The one
oh my
from
gosh.
Big Intel, how the CIA and FBI went from Cold War heroes to deep state villains. I mean, that one is really worthwhile talking about.
And it's 500 pages. So anyway, sadly, I called the author this morning, and he's amazing. His book just dropped last week. We'll have him in here hopefully next week. But we do have a big show. We're going to be joined by Gerry James. He's running for the candidate for State Senate District 7 seat over in Jacksonville area. We'll talk to him. I met him in I met his somebody that is promoting him in Tallahassee and said I had to have him on when I was running around representing the Republican Liberty Caucus. So we'll have him in here, and he's got a battle for Florida because the incumbent is dirty. So we'll talk about that with him. And he has a really intriguing endorsement. So we'll talk about that too.
Okay.
And then our other author that I got through her book barely this morning. Oh my God. And it is excellent. The Soros Agenda. Rachel Ehrenfeld, I think is how you say her name. She's a famous author, and the book is amazing. I knew George Soros was a bad guy, but oh my gosh, he is a bad guy, John.
Yeah, and it goes all the way back to World War II. His bizarre actions go all the way back to World War II, and working for the Nazis, basically. I mean, it's really, really intriguing.
Well, the book's fantastic, and my father-in-law was Hungarian and actually fled the Russians, and came to Canada and eventually America. So to think that he's of the Soros generation, about 5 years younger, I cannot believe these are people from the same country. And one is just so bad, and he thinks he's God. So we'll get into it with Rachel from the Soros Agenda this morning. And then finally, we're supposed to be joined by Drew Allen, the Millennial Minister of Truth. So I hope I can survive that segment because this week has been chaos, John. And to start with, the Trump verdict yesterday awarding that crazy woman $83 million because sticks and stones will break my bones, but give you $83 million. So
the whole thing about New York, what you can see from the prosecutions with Letitia James, Alvin Bragg, this thing here. I mean, it's all crazy. How do you get justice in a leftist state like this? I mean, it's like the judges wouldn't let Trump testify to what he wanted to testify. Told the lawyer, his lawyer, your closing argument can only address these items. It's like, wait a minute, is the judge now in charge of the defense? I mean, it's
awful.
It's literally crazy.
And then the woman only wanted $10 million, and because of her pain and suffering, she gets $83 million. I mean, what the heck? And plus, I don't even buy the whole initial rape. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm anti-rape, but they were shopping in Bergdorf, and she tried on lingerie in a dressing room. If you've ever gone into a Bergdorf store, which I have now that my children live in New York, guess what happens when you're in that store, John? People are waiting on you because the dresses are $5,000 and $10,000. You're not in a dressing room alone with nobody checking on you. Can I get your size, ma'am? So
That's right. That's right. Personal shopper, and I agree with Trump. She's not my type.
oh my gosh. Well, and then that's the other thing. When you start to dig into it, she says she's been raped 13 times. Rape is one of her fantasies. So the woman has freaking issues, but this
Yeah,
was
she's got
a
psychological problems.
done deal. The judge, everything. New York was out to get Trump. And, I wish he could move his Trump buildings out of New York physically, honestly. I feel so awful for him.
Well, that's what I was. The Wall Street Journal had articles this week about all these real estate companies and how they're overinflating the values of their buildings in order to get loans. It's common industry practice. And then you have this judge, this New York judge that sits there and says, "Well, Mar-a-Lago's only worth 18 million. It's not worth $200 million
Oh,
like Trump claimed."
please.
And I'm like, I just laugh at that. I was like, what a jerk, It's like, so he's already found Trump guilty before the trial even started. He
Yeah.
found Trump guilty.
Right. Well, everybody has their agenda. Everybody wants their 5 minutes of fame. And as she walked out yesterday, smiling, and and Trump's lawyer said, they're going to appeal this. It's a First Amendment right to speak. And I mean, honestly, just because you do say something mean about somebody, it's worth $83 million. Plus, I don't even buy this. She can't even remember when the rape occurred. I think if that happened to you or me, we would know exactly when that happened.
But the fact that you can't present alternative anythings to the jury, and this was a jury trial, that the judge sits there and says, well, you can't say that, and you can't say that, and you can't say that, and it's like, well, I'm entitled to defend myself, and I should be able to say whatever I want to say, particularly on closing
Exactly.
arguments.
I agree.
If
Well,
and like I said, it's like a rigged. Well, it's not like it is a rigged
it is
justice
rigged.
system,
It is rigged. But
and that's clear. Look what's going on over here in Atlanta. With
oh my
Fannie Willis.
gosh.
I keep
Well,
laughing. More and more keeps coming out about that. It's like
it is so
it's like a
true.
clown show over
It's
there.
disgusting. But I'm in here with statesman John Salek. I hope I make it. I hope the steroids push me through this morning. We have a huge show. I'm literally feeling miserable, so I need to be propped up with prayer. But we have so much to talk about. Nikki Haley in New Hampshire. We've got DeSantis dropping out. We have so much, Sean. But when we come back, we'll be joined by our first guest, Gerry James, who's running to be state senator over in the Jacksonville area. We'll be right back on the COVID edition of Veronica Live. Welcome back to Veronica Live, the COVID Unplugged edition today. And we are so blessed to have our first guest. His name is Gerry James. He's running for the candidate for State District Seat 7 for their senatorial position. Welcome, Gerry.
Well, thank you, Veronica. It's very nice speaking with you this morning.
So tell us about your district. How big is it? What cities does that cover?
So it covers Putnam County, Volusia County, St. Johns County, and Flagler County. So it doesn't cover all of Volusia County, just the northern end, but all of Flagler, all of Putnam, and all of St. Johns County.
And
pretty big area.
Yeah, it sounds huge. And tell us about your background. I was very intrigued that you were a professional athlete. So share with the Veronica Live listeners what you've been up to the last few years.
So for the last 30 years, I played golf professionally in mostly the capacity of World Long Drive Champion. I won that twice and was a PGA professional as well. So I've taught golf at a very high level. I've taught PGA Tour players and such, and then I played at a high level as well. So I played in U.S. Senior Open and stuff like that. But and then when that started to wane down, I relied more on my financial advisor prowess, and I have started managing money for a lot of the people actually that I used to play with, and my own money as well. And so that's kind of what I've done for the last 30 years or so. But I mean, prior to that, I played a couple other sports as well, and I played them professionally, actually.
Well, I think politics is a sport, and lately it's been pretty bloody. And you tout yourself as the freedom fighter. So tell me, why did you want to get into this this sport of politics, Gerry?
Well, thank you for that question. I went to a local Republican Executive Committee meeting here in St. Johns County and simply asked one question. This was about 4 years ago. I said, was the 2020 election conducted fairly? And they said, absolutely. Joe Biden's our president, and he won it fair and square. At that point, I knew that we had a problem in the Republican Party because it was very obvious to me and all of the people that I knew that the 2020 election was stolen. And and for the Republican Executive Committee not to recognize that, I knew there was a problem in the Republican Party. So some people that were at that meeting asked me if I would consider running for an important seat here in the state of Florida. And I said, absolutely, I will consider that. And I prayed about it, and then I put my candidacy in for the state Senate. And I haven't looked back. In 2022, which was the first run that I had, I was narrowly defeated, and the mail-in balloting played a significant role in that defeat. I actually won the election in certain counties on election day, but mail-in balloting, I was outnumbered 4-1 in those. So I knew that there was something wrong with the supervisor of election, how they were conducting mail-ins and all this other nonsense. And I just went on from there. And I'm more determined now to get that seat than ever, especially after what I have learned about the Republican Party in the last 3 years. And none of it really is that good.
And what have you learned that you want to share with us?
Well, that basically we have fascists that are manning our Republican Party. What I mean by that is corporate political fascists. So the corporations basically tell the legislators what to write in their bills so that they can make record profits. And it's happening across, several lines of business. Insurance here in the state of Florida is one of the biggest lines, and development is another huge line. So these corporate entities sow into their preferred elected candidates, the candidates that are for sale, and they put in literally millions of dollars into their candidacy. So to help them get elected, and in such, they give them temporary power. And God knows why these candidates and how they justify it or why they do it. Because as a Republican, you're supposed to stand for conservative constitutional values, and this stuff is not happening. This is the main lesson that I've learned. That basically, no matter if you're a Republican or a Democrat, we have a uniparty now, and I know that that is trying to be broken up through the mega movement. And Donald Trump revealed a lot of it, but unless patriots get up and stand for our constitutional rights and fight and educate people that what's really going on, nothing's going to change.
Gerry, it's interesting. I went and looked at some of Tom Leake's contribution list, and this is all publicly available information. You can go to the Florida Division of Elections to check his official candidate contributions, which weren't that much, to be honest with you. But at least compared, it's like 300K compared to his PAC contributions, and he has two PACs.
Right.
And I was stunned looking through these PACs that just in December alone, December and the first week of January, because when the session starts, they can't accept money. Okay, so that's why it cut off the first week of January. But just December and the first week of January, he collected $610,000 in contributions, and almost every bit of it was from PACs in Tallahassee, Miami, Tampa, even Atlanta, Washington, D.C. I mean, I was stunned looking at this list of contributions, and that's where all the real money's at. People say, "Oh, you can only give $1,000 to a candidate." That's a bunch of horse hockey,
Right.
The real money's in the PACs, and that's where you need to look to see what's going on. And seeing this guy getting $20,000 from this group, $45,000 from this group, and then reading the people who he's dealing with, like Ballard Partners, who's one of the top lobbying firms in Tallahassee. They not only help contribute to him, but he also uses them as consultants on his campaign. So, this guy is like the insider money thing, and it's almost like he's bought and paid for. And it's unfortunate that's what Tallahassee is becoming with the Republicans.
Well, thank you for looking that up. And unfortunately, we do not have enough educated constituents to do what you exactly did. And the scenario that you laid out is 100% spot on. We have a candidate for office that has been in office for the last 5 years, going on 6 years, that has been bought and paid for. His net worth in 2017 was $820,000. It is over $14 million now. Folks, this is a $29,000 a year job, okay?
And I was going to ask you about that. That's shocking. That is shocking, Jerry. I read the story on that, and he is bought and paid for.
Yeah, it's abominable. And we are literally watching fascism before our eyes, and it's abominable. It's unconstitutional. It's legal tyranny, legal theft. These people in a righteous society and in a just society should be basically prosecuted and thrown in jail. What can I say? But you know what? Unless patriots stand, nothing's ever going to happen. And unless people get educated about this through radio shows like through periodicals, TV, you name it, people have to get educated. And I am committed to providing a lot of that education.
Well, what I discovered, Jerry, was, I was in Tally about a week ago when I met Amy, and all of these people, once they're elected, they don't care about our agenda anymore. And I know you do have some priorities looking at your website. Election integrity is one of them as well you were talking about. And one of the bills that was brought forward, and I'm very pro this bill, is if you get a license and you're not American, just like I have a license that says I'm a veteran, it's checked on there that you're not an American so that they can't finagle the voter system. So I would assume you'd support that bill starting there as one of the election integrity bills.
Well, of course I would support that. But look, it's all capitulation and compromise. Really what we need to get back to is a one-day paper ballot vote with U.S. citizen verifiable ID, period, full stop. This is the problem with the Republican Party. Just 20 years ago or 30 years ago, they decided to do a machine count after the so-called hanging chats. Most people don't know, but the machine count started here in Florida, and Jeb Bush implemented that machine count, and it is thus spread nationwide. And those machines are being manipulated. People don't want to believe that, but I know it to be a fact. And then they've also implemented paper ballots, where now you can vote by mail. Vote by mail ballots. They're basically unverified in a lot of cases. They can give you all the excuses in the world, but it's compromise after compromise after compromise. And we have to repeal all of this nonsense. I'm telling you, we have to get legislators in there with, real courage. I was going to use another word, but we have to get some courageous legislators in there.
Well, the problem that you have is even the supervisors, and our local supervisor of elections is probably one of the top supervisors in the country. I mean, this guy is
Definitely
straight shooter, former Navy SEAL. I mean, he doesn't he doesn't play games, okay? And he straight up runs the best elections, I think, in the state. I mean, when they do recounts in Bay County, the number comes up exactly what it was the first time. There aren't those kind of mistakes here because he's got an ISO 9000 quality. So really, it's a top notch. But I've talked to him, and his thing is there's no going back. We had the discussion about paper ballots versus electronic ballots a long time ago, and I convinced him that it's like the electronic ballots, like the Dominion stuff. You don't want that. You need the paper trail so that you can always go back and even hand count the stuff, even sample them. To make sure the numbers are right and the machines are working correctly. You got to have the paper ballot, period. And he moved away from the Dominion, the electronic voting system, and went to the bubble ballot stuff. And I think we were one of the first to have that in the state. No hanging chads in Bay County. but as far as the convenience of voting and stuff, people are getting too used to the mail-in ballots and the early voting. It's just become ingrained now, and it's not going away.
Well, it's not going away unless we have a vote for it to go away, because I think the majority of the people realize there's a huge problem. Look, if we don't fix our election and really fix our election system, we have no country. And, people can say, oh, well, we're too far down the road. We're too far gone. It's not going to go away. That's, to me, a form of compromise. We have to get back to a one-day paper ballot vote with verifiable U.S. citizen ID. Now, if you want to machine count that paper ballot vote, go ahead and do so and verify that paper ballot vote. All right. But we have to get back to a paper ballot vote. And then we can cross-check. And we can be transparent. Now, that is a different word, transparency. Let's, all these supervisors of election, they bought in to the lack of transparency, and I could give you many examples of that. But what they're doing when they recount is they're recounting their own machine count, and they're not, so.
Right. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense that they just run the machine a second time, and it's like that. It's
exactly.
like same problem expecting results. There's a saying about that. But
well,
Gerry, I'm just curious about what's your view on insurance? I mean, that's really a hot topic in the session this year.
So therein lies a huge, problem where I deem it as corporate fascism. The insurance companies are basically writing the laws, giving them to the legislators. The legislators are then, proposing these bills, and they're getting them passed because the insurance companies are donating to the key legislators that will pass them through. And I'll give you one example, and most people don't even know about this. What has recently just passed now is if you take your insurance company to court and you prevail in court for a claim, say it's a slab leak or a roof claim or whatever, and the insurance company denies it, which they're automatically going to do now, guess what? You're on the hook for your own legal fees. People say, "How? That's absurd." Well, it happened, and that's law now, and it's fascism.
wow.
Yes, it's crazy. And unless that law gets repealed, we have really we don't even have it. If you own your own home, there's really no reason to have homeowners insurance anymore, because they will deny most claims now because there's no incentive for them to pay the claim, in that you have to pay your own legal fees, and your own legal fees could surmount to in certain cases tens of thousands of dollars, and the claim itself might not be even worth the legal fee charge. So these insurance companies are they're driving the system, and it's across the board. Homeowners.
So true. We're Hurricane Michael
auto,
people over here, Jerry.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
we get it.
we found out about
are.
insurance the hard way.
So no, we need you in there fighting for us. One of the big things that I learned too on my recent trip to Tally was nobody wants to fight about the Second Amendment. And once they get there, we met with incoming speaker Al Britton, I think his name is, and he didn't want to repeal moving the 21 back to 18 for buying long guns because it's like it wasn't worth it to him. So I wanted to get your stance on the red flag law and where you stand, because John and I are big Second Amendment people. We've both been veterans. I think people should be able to buy guns if they're 18
and open carry them.
Yes. So tell us your thoughts on that.
My thoughts on that is simple. You should not be infringed. And I am a full Second Amendment advocate, full stop. We need to repeal every red flag law, every law that doesn't allow you to open carry. We need to repeal the Marjorie Taylor, Douglas Stoneman, whatever the heck it is, bill. All of these infringe on our Second Amendment rights. It's simple. It's just unconstitutional. And what we have legislative cowards that are afraid of the media, that are afraid of whoever, because they've been brainwashed into thinking that by the media, by the leftists, that blame guns for shootings. It's the most absurd thing in the world. They don't blame the person that shot the people. They blame guns, an inanimate object. The only way a gun can kill somebody is if you load it and point it at somebody and pull the trigger. I mean, the idiocy is beyond the pale, and it is just brainwashing, the constant drum of brainwashing with the media. The Second Amendment is there for a reason, and one of the biggest reasons is to protect yourself from government tyranny, which is basically what we have started.
Well, that's excellent.
That's very true. Yeah, Alec Baldwin proved the thing about pointing the gun and pulling the trigger, didn't he?
The gunshot.
Yeah.
And
Right.
one thing I'm so intrigued by, I love all of your endorsements, and my favorite one was Sarah Palin. You actually have a video on your Jerry for Senate page, and Sarah Palin has endorsed you. So tell me about that relationship. That's a huge endorsement.
Well, she has a good friend, Ronnie DeGay, and Ronnie is one of my really, really good friends. Ronnie was a Stanley Cup winner and, played in the NHL for a lot of years. And Ronnie introduced me to Sarah, and Sarah realized I was running here in, Florida, and I'm a constitutional conservative, as is she. And she goes, "Look, would it help if I endorsed you?" I said, "Absolutely." She is a unique American and has stood up to the tyranny of the left for many, many years. Most people have no idea how hard the left came on her and her family, the Marxist left, because they wanted to shut her down, bribe her. You know, they wanted to harass her in every place and venue that they could, and make her be quiet, which is what the left does. Which, you know, that's the Marxist Saul Alinsky tenet. You know, the rules for radicals. And she realized the fight that I was going to undertake, and we as conservative, constitutional Christian conservative people need to band together, and we need to stand up for each other and endorse each other and say, this is the person that is going to lead your state or lead your country, and he won't back down or she won't back down. They will not compromise. They will stand for the Constitution, and they're not for sale. Look at what they just tried to do to Carrie Lake. And
Yep.
they, you know, they tried to do a lot of that stuff to Sarah as well. And, you know, Sarah, it's just amazing that and by the way, for the people that don't take the money and don't shut up and don't compromise, there's 5 or 10 behind them that do. And so, you know, when you find that pearl in that person that will not take, you know, will not be bribed and will stand and is not a coward, get behind them with everything you have, money, you know, donation, door knocking, whatever that you can do for that candidate, and get with them, because those are the people that are going to go to bat for you in the legislative office, and they're going to be the ones that'll make a difference for you for the good.
You know, Gerry, I'll give you a quick piece of advice here, because you're up against the Republican Party, Florida. They close. You know that you got the Florida Senate leadership is going to protect this guy.
Yep.
So you need a good ground game. You need to get out there and knock on those doors. That's how you win. That's how you beat the money. The guy looks like he's arrogant, you know, and is not going to do what he needs to do to get out. But get out there, do what Don Gates did. Get out there and knock. He knocked on 40-some thousand doors in this district. Yeah. He wanted that. He didn't need to do that, but he did it.
I have a question, Gerry, because you're also endorsed by, of course, the Republican Liberty Caucus, which I'm now one of the regional directors, so proud about that. And you're also endorsed by Abolish Abortion. So will you work to try to get abortion to 0 weeks in Florida? John and I are big pro-lifers, and I just feel like this is a crime against humanity for these voiceless babies.
Well, here again, you have a mass brainwashing of the populace by the demonic left, whereas, you know, it's a crime to kill a baby that is a year old, and you could go to prison for the rest of your life for it. But yet you can kill that same baby inside the womb when it's 7 weeks old, or, you know, 8 weeks old, 4 weeks, whatever. What does the Bible say? The Bible says that life begins at conception. Okay, I knew you before you were formed. I just read in Psalms a verse of that today. And, you know, I stand on the book that has formed my basically fervency for this country, because I believe our documents given to us are divine. And I stand for truth. And it's a no-brainer for me that I stand to abolish abortion. A woman has no right to take a life that's conceived inside of her. And that's how is that radical? To me, it's a no-brainer.
I don't know, honestly. Well, you truly are a freedom fighter, and I'm so impressed. I really hope you can take out your opponent, because he does not sound like he's the right guy. Any final comments, and where can people find out more about you, Gerry?
Thank you for that. It's Gerry for Senate, Gerry, the number 4, Senate.com. Simple website. You can donate on there. You can get on there, and say, hey, look, I want to have yard signs if you're in my district. I want to help you go door knocking, and whatever you can do to help, please do. The main, outside of my district, I would that you would, if you want a freedom fighter, somebody that's going to really make a difference in the state Senate, donate to my campaign. Help me, because I'm a grassroots campaign going up against, millions of dollars of corporate, what I call fascism. The other main thing that everybody in this audience can do for me is pray. I believe in the power of prayer, emphatically believe in the power of prayer. And I believe that I am put in this fight for such a time as this. If not me, then who? If not now, then when?
Wow. It's been an honor having you on the Veronica Live show, and we wish you all the best. Gerry James for Senate. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
And we'll have you back.
God bless you.
God bless. We'll be right back on Veronica Live. Welcome back to Veronica Live, and we are here with our next guest, Dr. Rachel Ehrenfeld. She's the author of a brilliant book, The Soros Agenda, and she's the founder and president of the New York-based American Center for Democracy and the Economic Warfare Institute. Welcome, Rachel, to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Well, the book is absolutely incredible. I loved every moment of it. I didn't realize how bad of a person George Soros was. My father-in-law fled the communists from Hungary, and what I told my husband this morning, I was so sad that he passed 2 years ago, and I'm so sad he wasn't here to read your book, because I'd actually had conversations with him over the years, because I couldn't understand how two men could leave Hungary and be so different when it came to their thinking. So tell me, how did you decide to write a book about George Soros?
I decided to write a book about Soros after looking into his activities, and this was beginning in 1993, when he actually came to the United States and established his Open Society Institute, as it was called at the time, here in New York. And as the first project, he said that he is doing it in order to, he wants to change the United States of America. He wants to have an open society, which is a different conception of how society should be organized. It's more sophisticated than democracy and communism, he said. Okay. So the first project he chose was really to try and challenge, to change America. So try and challenge the criminal law system, right? The criminal law. And what can be better than challenging the American people about their criminal laws is to propose to start a campaign to legalize drugs, to legalize all drugs at the beginning. And he invested $15 million immediately in propaganda and in establishing his own foundation and giving money to other foundations in order to work on this project to promote drug legalization. When I read about it, I said, well, it's a little bit strange. It's curious why somebody who claims that he wants an open society is advocating and working to bring more addiction, to create more possibilities for addiction, drug addiction, to people, because this is to me, as I understand it, addiction to drug is total slavery. It's your body and your soul and your brain. Everything is completely enslaved to the drug. So I was thinking about it, and I wrote about it actually in Wall Street Journal and other papers. And so I asked this question, why? And then I said, I understood that this is a longer-term issue for him. That this is not only about legalizing drug, it's about changing, as he said, the system in the United States. So changing the United States. So I said at the time, this was not, by now it was 1995, early 96, and I said, if unchallenged, Soros will be able to change the political landscape of the United States. And, well, I didn't have a crystal ball, but he did.
So true. And tell me about, I guess the first time you met him, you mentioned in the book, was at this cocktail party. So what was like, because, you mentioned through the book that he, kind of feels like he's God, so obviously his ego's huge.
Well, yeah. Many wealthy people and others have a huge ego. Soros certainly has one. He is megalomaniac, and by now he has a right to have a very big ego because he managed to influence so many things and change the United States too. But he said that in his youth he was thinking of himself as God.
Right.
And since he made money and he was able actually to do what he wants to do, he began to live it out, as he said. Well, I mean, it shows that he's right to feel the way he feels. I was actually at some gathering at his home, and when I was introduced to him as an expert on narco-terrorism at the time, and so he started telling me something which was not accurate, and I pointed it out to him. He got very angry, started yelling at me.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, at his home, and people are kind of gathering around us, and it was like from a Woody Allen movie. I mean,
wow.
I'm just curious, Rachel. What drives him? I mean, I go back to his early history. Where he's a Jewish descent, I guess is a good way to describe it. I guess he's not a practicing Jew, if I understand it.
No, not only that. He actually denounced it. He said he claims that he's agnostic. He was born into the Jewish religion, but that's it.
But he cooperated with the Nazis in World War II. So I mean, it's almost like he has no views. It's just a survival instinct, and he just and I look at all of his transactional actions, from shorting, currency shorting, on the pound, where he made billions of dollars.
Yeah,
I mean, what is it that drives this guy? And I mean, is he a sociopath? I mean, do you have any idea what the psychology of his actions are?
I didn't sit down with him. I didn't interview him. I am not a psychiatrist. I'm not a psychologist either. So yeah, I'm a criminologist, but he by the way, he did not. I mean, saying he cooperated with the Nazis. He was 14 years old, and his father, in order to save him because they were Jews, etc., his father found a Hungarian Nazi official who took him along with him. And they went to, and he was identifying Jewish property. Once Jewish property was identified, the people who the property was belonged to were, of course, arrested, deported, were sent to Auschwitz to be exterminated. So he was 14 years old. And so he did what he did to survive. However, he said that this was the happiest time of his life, and he never, ever used any opportunity to apologize, to say he regretted it. He's sorry about that. No, actually, he said that this helped really create his character. So yeah, I guess opportunism and opportunistic pragmatism and feelings of grandeur and megalomania are what characterize him.
It's almost like he has he's morally debased and has he's purely transactional.
Yeah. Yeah.
So back to the cocktail party, Dr. Rachel. So he's yelling at you. Is that when the light bulb went off in your head? I've got to write a book about this. I mean, how did that end? Now and you've written all kinds of books about drugs and how bad they are. So how did that cocktail party end?
Well, he was yelling at me, and there were about 40 people, and everybody's huge living room. So everybody was in one corner where we were standing, and he was yelling at me. And because I don't yell, but I responded very quietly, and I said, well, no, what he's saying is wrong. So he continued to yell at me, turned around, and left the room. Left the room. So all the people who were surrounding us moved to the other end of the room and left me there alone.
Well, and you say in the book that you weren't frightened of him, and now you've written a book about him. So why are you not?
I was not
frightened at all. Because he's so powerful.
I continue to follow. No, actually, and then I had some threats. So I was very curious to see how he was doing what he said he set out to do. And following him after a couple of years, I saw the second project that he had was to start providing legal advice to illegal migrants. This is 1995. So I followed him for a couple of years and decided, okay, now I decided 2 years ago, something that is very important, and watching him doing things all over the world, and especially how his plans to change America has been moving forward big time with President Obama, the Democrats, and now with Biden. And I said, well, it's really important that American people will know more about this person who is really influencing their lives and really changing America and helping or making America, I don't know, a borderless, globalized country, if you want, a country where the laws are helping to elect district attorneys and prosecutors and judges that wherever they are elected, not to enforce the law. So one of his modus operandi is not to go to Congress and ask to lobby for changing laws. No. Although they have an office in his organization has offices in Washington, actually for specifically influencing legislation and the decision makers and the government. But what he has done is going to cities and states and step by step, from state to state, from city to city, creating enough propaganda, helping enough organizations in order to bring about changes that he was interested in. It's like legalizing marijuana, which he said is not addictive, and which we know is not only addictive, but it is causing psychosis and is schizophrenia, is affecting the whole body.
Yeah, gateway drug.
Yeah, these two, and causing really a lot of health problems, costing the economy a lot of money. And in addition, he said, well, once it will be legal, then we will not have any more problems with gangs and criminals because there will not be an incentive to sell the drugs illegally. Well, we have more crime and more gangs that are selling drugs illegally and growing them actually here in the United States as well. So that didn't work. And still, I'm very worried because Congress is now, with the Biden administration, they want to reschedule the marijuana from dangerous drug into just, something like Tylenol, completely, well, Tylenol can have harmful effects.
So what do you think? Real quick, what is George Soros's vision of an ideal society? I mean, is he something like a looking for a Putin and oligarchs to run things, or he doesn't like the Chinese communists?
Let me piggyback on that too, Rachel, because you have a line in the book that says he's into like weakening the country from within while decreasing our influence around the world. Why does he hate America so much? Also,
well, it's a good question, I guess. It seems to me, I don't know that, and it seems to me that since he couldn't be elected president, he was not born here, so he cannot do it by law. He decided to do the next best thing is really to use his money and his influence in order to change America from within. And with his many international connections also, and change it from within, and having a government to his liking elected to office whenever he could. And then, so changing, the government have been following his policies, his foreign policy ideas, and so now we have been weakened from within, and more divided from within, and much weaker without. Why he hates America? I don't know. He hates capitalism too. He doesn't like. His organizations have been active in more than 120 countries, and he has been influencing many other countries, but not as much as here. And another country that he doesn't like, really, these are the two countries in the world that their laws are based on the Bible, if you want. It's the United States of America, the Constitution, and the Jewish state of Israel. And he's okay with Israel, but not with the Jewish state of Israel, not with the Jewish character of Israel. He doesn't think that the Jews should have a country of their own. So he has been working very hard also together with the Biden administration that carries out many of, and the Democratic Party that are carrying out many of Soros' ideas, which is really a neo-Marxism, globalist, and they are acting very strongly in order to depose the Israeli Prime Minister, Bibi Netanyahu, even in the middle of a war.
right?
So, and he has been funding organizations here and in Israel and in the Palestinian territories, if you want, directly and indirectly, that oppose the existence of Israel. And some of the demonstrations that you see all over the country by, what is it, Gays for Palestine.
Right.
Yeah, that's funny.
See all these many thousands and thousands of people, many of them from the left, youth from the left, they don't even know what they are talking about or what they are marching about. They are being paid, these demonstrations are being organized, and he has been funding, not all, but some of the organizations on the left that has been promoting and organizing these anti-Israel, pro-Hamas demonstrations. And he's been doing also anti-Israel, has been funding anti-Israel, pro-Palestine organizations directly and indirectly for decades.
You know, one of the things we were talking to an author a couple of weeks ago about the Obama myth and where Obama came from. You know, he basically started as a nobody in Illinois and suddenly became president, you know, with a lot of people in the background manipulating things. And one of Obama's things, you know, he's an anti-colonialist, you know, as far as the U.S. goes and other countries. Do you think George Soros was influential in the Obama coming to power and this anti-colonialist idea?
Is the bigger funder of the Democratic Party. He created all these huge PACs in order to political action so that you can really bundle money and raise millions of dollars and just flood the country with money to elect this and that. Absolutely. His connections with the Obama administration were very close, very influential, and he did that. He started with the Clinton administration. He tried to get John Kerry elected, but John Kerry is so bad that even Soros' money cannot.
One of the questions Go ahead.
He has been a major supporter of the Biden administration and the Democratic Party, and many of the high-ranking officials in the Biden administration.
Well, that was my question, Dr. Rachel. I was going to ask you. He has a very tight relationship with Secretary Blinken. So I wanted you to talk about that because you talk about that in the book.
Well, it's not only with Blinken. He has very close ties with other officials in the Biden administration. The Blinken family has been friends with the Soros. With Soros, they even left their library, which is now part of the Soros Foundation. They left the library for the Soros Foundations, and he worked with Biden. Blinken has been really an operative for the Democratic Party and very close to Soros as he was growing up and since then. And of course, he worked with Biden on Capitol Hill when he was a senator, and worked with the Biden whatever foundation he has that is being funded by PAN and Chinese. I mean, the connections are very deep, but he's not the only one. Others are as well.
Well, where do we go from here? Because obviously, I mean, your book is, let me tell you how many facts are in there. Dr. Gay from Harvard called, and she was very jealous because the book is so many footnotes, Dr. Rachel.
Yes.
I mean, the money. The
book has only 100, it's only 100 pages of text, and more than 150 pages of documentation.
Yeah, it was amazing.
References.
The money that he has put out to all of these, it's just so strange because to come from Hungary and to have dealt with Nazis and the communists, it's just unbelievable that this man, hasn't embraced, I don't know, wanting to be an American and living the dream. He's just completely opposite. He says he's a world citizen, but he's a world disaster. So what has the feedback been for you on this book, Dr. Rachel?
Well, I've written the book to lay out the plans, what is the Soros agenda, and I focus mainly on the United States, although I mention, of course, other countries. But I wanted the people here to understand the involvement, what were the plans, how did we get here, and Soros's role in getting us here. And I think, actually, that when people talk, for example, about the catastrophe at the border, letting in, 10 million of illegal migrants by now, and God only knows how many gotaways
Yeah.
we don't know of. That was something that Soros has been supportive of, as I said, from 1995. How I laid out several of his major plans early on, and I described how we went about to actually get them into place. And there's something very important and interesting in the way he's working, and now the Democratic Party, of course, as well, is they're using Orwellian language. So if they say that, if they say the sun is shining now, if you look out the window, you will see that actually you have a great moon outside, or it's completely dark. So everything that they say is really the opposite. And he also uses, in addition, the Aldous Huxley's Brave New World ideas of doping the American people. And in between, there are all kind of all the issues about, as I said from the beginning, he tried to change criminal laws, and so now everything is being described as justice. So now you create racial division by calling it racial justice. You create all kinds of upheavals by calling it justice, ecological justice, criminal justice, you name it. Everything is racial justice, gender justice. So you promote transgenderism, and it's endless. The list is growing, and so under that cover, really, he and the Biden administration are trying to change the United States, and I'm very concerned that there will be more executive orders coming in order from the Biden administration in order to do as much damage to the American family, society, economy, and security before he actually finishes this term.
Well, and that was my question too, Dr. Rachel, is John and I are patriots, and we're fighting for freedom in America and the Constitution every day. And we feel like this election in 2024, it's one of the most important in our lifetime. So do you feel that way too for America, that if Trump doesn't win, we're in trouble?
I think that unless the Democratic Party and the Democratic Party and Biden are removed from the scene, this country will, we can say, bye-bye America. It is changing very rapidly and not for the better. And really, the Democratic Party, which is a dictatorial, actually, entity by now, and Biden should be really removed from leadership and from majority. It's really up to the American people to do that. If they want freedom and if they want really to preserve the Constitution and all the other things, prosperity and education and the family, and strengthening the military, and closing the borders, they should get this administration out.
So George Soros is 93, and obviously at some point we all leave. What comes after him? Is this institutionalized now, or is it a cult of personality kind of thing that's going to go away when he goes away?
Well, I think his personality, the fact that he's no longer running the show, will be affecting it eventually. By now, his son, last June, his son was appointed was officially declared the heir, and he is now running. He is now the chairman. His son, Alexander, who is 38 or 39, and he's very, as he said, he's much more political than his father, if something like that can be. And he's been contributing a lot to Democrats, and he will contribute much more money in order to try and remove or defeat any Republican who is running for office anywhere in this country. That's what they will.
Wow.
Not only Trump, all other Republicans running for office. That's what they are spending millions of dollars on.
That's just incredible. Well, the book it's outstanding. It's riveting. And it's so funny. I was in a Jewish bakery in New York at Thanksgiving called Zabar's, and I honestly thought I saw George Soros when I was in the bakery. So I felt like I saw him there, and I left and I Googled I was like, oh my gosh, I think he was in the bakery. He's probably too rich to step foot in that bakery,
they don't
Jewish store.
Yeah.
But wow, such a powerful book, The Soros Agenda, and we'll have to have you back, Dr. Rachel Ehrenfeld, because it was outstanding.
I'd be glad to come back. Beware and read the book so you will know what you are up to and stop the chaos that he is creating.
Well, we appreciate you being a warrior for America. So thank you, Dr. Rachel. We'll have you back. God bless.
Thank you.
We'll be right back on Veronica Live. Welcome back to Veronica Live, the COVID edition. Oh my gosh, John, I am dying over here. It's in my back. I just took an 800 milligram ibuprofen. Although I don't know, the steroids are not working with my double ear infection that I always get with this crud. Oh my gosh!
You'll be lifting weights before you know it.
I'm telling you, it always blows up my face. I'm doing this show with no makeup, and then this is the hard part about being the podcast. Like, of all the days that I need Chick-fil-A, John, I need some freaking Chick-fil-A today to sustain myself through COVID. Which really, COVID's just the flu, by the way. It's like a horrific flu. So this is round 2 because Wednesday it hit me, and then this is 4 days later, and I'm still miserable. So, which I think I got it from church because it was a 2-hour mass, and I'm a pro God warrior, but it was a little rough. It was a little long, and then my other friend that was in church, we commiserated yesterday because she got COVID too. So I think we got it from a church carrier.
Well, it seems to be going around. I've talked to a lot of people have it, so it was flu season anyway. So what's the difference,
Oh my gosh! But I did want to. The last interview with Dr. Rachel Ehrenfeld was amazing. The Soros Agenda. The book was excellent. So I highly recommend everybody go to Amazon.com and pick up a copy. It was riveting because we always hear about George Soros, and in the book it talks about how he has an open pass every year to speak at Davos, because he's in the Billionaires Club. But I was just so struck. What does he care about? Because he didn't care about his mother. He didn't care about his father. He's got several children. He's on his third wife that he married at 90. So that's pretty spry. But what does he care about? I don't know. Letting out all the prisoners in America. I don't understand this.
Well, that's what I'm trying to figure out. He doesn't like the Chinese communist government. He doesn't like this. He doesn't like our democracy or republic form of government. He doesn't like the European democracy, parliamentary type governments. You got to wonder. It's like, when you look at all the forms of government, it almost seems like he wants anarchy, and whoever the strong men are, the oligarchs that emerge typically from very violent oligarchs, by the way, typical of the Russians. It's like the Russian mob, basically. Is that his idea of what the ideal government is the government of the strongest, where they prey on the weak? I mean, is that our government's just the opposite. We believe in individual rights and protecting the weak from the majority, so.
But to be pro drugs, and when you read the book, he truly is the founding father of let's legalize marijuana all over town. And as we know now, that woman got off this week for stabbing her boyfriend over 100 times in a psychotic marijuana state. 100 plus, and oh, by the way, they broke her arm in 5 places because they couldn't even control her. And then she gets off. Obviously, drugs, aka marijuana, is not the place to start. And then to want to let all these prisoners out and fund all these DAs that suck. I mean, she mentions DeSantis. He fired that one DA that was a Soros DA. So Florida, we don't have that going on. So that's probably why I can't leave Florida, because we have some good things, excellent things going on, John, in my COVID state.
But that's what I said. It's like they want to promote anarchy, and that's basically what lawlessness is. Drugs. How many hundreds of years they've had opium dens. Has anything ever come out of that? Never in the history of the world.
Dr. Rachel is a drug expert. She's actually written books about cartels and drugs. And one of the things he wanted to push was, how we need to do these exchanges. And so that was one of the encounters she had with him, was talking about Switzerland, that they tried it, but guess what? People get into drugs more when you give them clean stuff. So drugs, it's a problem, but the book is it's outstanding.
Right, they're not productive, and people want. Well, what about you get crime? Well, how do you think these drug addicts get money to buy the drugs? It's called crime, because they can't hold a job. They can't. No. They don't have enough coherent brain power to go out and actually do something to make a living. They have to steal. That's just the way it is, and it's human nature. And back to what's his end goal? Is it anarchy? And for what purpose? Anarchy is not something that a civilized society needs. And,
well, it was interesting because
anti-colonialist. I don't know.
He ended up leaving Hungary and ended up living in London, and that's where he started his hedge fund and made his first $2 billion, and then came to America. So no, I was really missing my father-in-law so much, the Hungarian, because we obviously talked about Soros, but I didn't know how not a nice person Soros was, and did not embrace America, but he called himself a world citizen. So 10 years ago, I gave a speech in Japan to some Japanese about being a world citizen. But to me, being a world citizen is having countries that are doing the right thing, not trying to invade each other or pass out drugs to the world,
But you have,
what is
you have
his
to
definition? He says he's a world citizen. I consider myself a world citizen.
But he's a world.
We're
the
not
difference
the same.
is he's a world citizen with no moral basis or reference points. You have moral reference points, and that's a huge difference,
It is funny because he said he was agnostic, but his son has embraced the Jewish faith. But when you read the book, he's given so much money to Palestine, and then the relationship. I asked her about the Blinken. That was amazing. I mean, he's definitely in bed with the Clintons, the Obamas, the Blinkens. But I just don't know how you get there.
I don't think it's so much the Clintons. I think it's whoever's behind Obama, and I'm sure Soros is a big part of it. But there's a whole group of invisible Democrats or invisible whatever George Soros's colleagues are that are running this government, by remote control, and they do it through people like Blinken and Susan Rice and Valerie Jarrett.
Well, because if you saw Biden this week at all his little outings,
oh my
God. The worst ever, the worst ever, and one of the stories in the afterburner stack was that Dem, Biden's Dem challenger says his party is delusional, has kind words for Trump voters. I mean, it was so bad this week. All of his outings, totally lost, looking out into space, couldn't talk.
The best joke I heard all week was, the worst job to have is being Biden's sign language interpreter. Trying to interpret his whatever he was saying.
Well, it was funny because this Dem, who is he? Representative Dean Phillips of Minnesota, is getting a reputation for being a straight shooter, and he went to his first ever MAGA rally. So he tells CNN, and actually it was funny. You sent me this story, but I'd seen the interview, and he tells the CNN person, I got to tell you guys, I went to a Donald Trump rally a couple nights ago. Never been to one. I had an event across the street. I saw the line of people waiting in the cold for hours. And I thought, what the heck? I'm going to be a leader who actually invites people, doesn't condemn them. And so he talks about what a great experience it was going to
I know. He
a
just talked
Trump
to they're just
rally.
regular people. He found out they were just regular people, and they had concerns about what was happening to the country,
Oh
and they
my gosh.
weren't crazy. They weren't nuts.
So this made me laugh through my COVID delirious. I'm so delirious today, but I gotta say I love him. But oh my gosh, the Dems are pissed at him, and to say he talked about it on the Communist News Network.
I know it, and it's been an interesting week politically. With what we started out with, Trump winning in New Hampshire over,
Yes.
and they said, well, he didn't beat her that bad, and it's like, well,
Oh
it was a
please.
2-person race, and he still beat her by what was it, 10 points. So yeah, I think that's in politics, 10 points is being stomped. Okay,
But you sent me all the stats too, which I'd seen, the last couple days of all the Dems that jumped over. So it wasn't even real. It's just fake. And I was so ready for her to be gone. And then, she's not gone yet. Ugh.
well, she's not going anywhere, and there are a bunch of theories out there that there's this last man standing theory that she's hoping something will happen to Trump, that he'll either die or be in prison, one or the other.
Which
and
was the shocking part was DeSantis dropped out. I was kind of worried about that because our last show we had Jason, our attorney wingman Jason Gonzalez. So I actually messaged him, and because remember he had said he was worried about the court cases, and so I thought DeSantis would stay in the game, John, just because of that.
Well, you remember what I told Jason? I was like, tell him to get out before he becomes Jeb Bush. Before he loses Florida and becomes an embarrassment, and his political career would be done. And I was really glad to see that he decided to get out. It's interesting. It's the campaign is suspended. He's not quit running. He has suspended his campaign.
Okay,
and that's
so
actually
that terminology matters then.
Yes, it does, because he actually has
Thank
delegates.
you.
And here's what's going to happen. This is the problem with the theory of last man standing with Haley. If something happens to Trump, it's going to be a brokered convention, period. I don't care what else anybody says.
Define that for the listeners.
Okay, that basically means nobody has enough delegates to win, and then it becomes a bargaining session between the delegates and different groups in order to get enough of a majority to get elected, to get the nomination. So those are called brokered conventions. Deals are going on, backroom deals, the smoke-filled rooms,
Okay, I've learned about too many
is.
deals lately,
Okay.
John.
Well, that's what it becomes. You get people trading favors and all this kind of stuff. It's like, I'll do this person for vice president. I'll get you this cabinet job.
Well,
it's
on that
deal-making,
note
okay?
too, Senator Tim Scott got engaged, so he looks like the total package now to
Right,
be the VP.
right.
But I will say what I did like about everybody was kind of there for Trump in New Hampshire. Vivek was there.
Yeah.
Tim Scott was there. The North Dakota guy that ran, who I can never remember his name, the Gov, was there.
Doug Bergen.
So they all have rallied around Trump. And I really like that. I mean, of course, DeSantis wasn't, but he did come out with a nice statement. And
well, the Florida Republican Party has endorsed Trump as the candidate for the Republican Party. They formally did that this week, and then, well, I don't know formally. I think they're going to do it at the meeting here when they come, because they have to vote on it.
The meeting in February.
Yeah, in February. Yeah, but the Republican National Committee is also talking about just go ahead and having a resolution endorsing Trump as the Republican candidate.
Well, let's
and everybody's crying foul because it's like, oh, we haven't even had the primaries yet, and all this stuff. You need 1,200 delegates, and he's not even close, and da 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 da. It's like he has got such huge majorities in all these states. even South Carolina, he's gonna beat Nikki Haley by at least 30 points.
I
Okay?
hope. Well, that was the thing
Just,
yesterday. CNN was like losing it with this Trump case, and he's just a disaster, and how can he be the Republicans nominee, and like I've so tuned out these cases because it's such BS. I can't even take it anymore.
well, I'm trying to make out what's going on. Some of the Atlanta one is particularly interesting because that was supposed to be the lead case. It was supposed to set the pattern for
well,
everything
until you're
else.
sleeping with the guy helping you on the case and
Right.
going on
So
vacays.
well, it looked like it was going to be a slam dunk that they were going to convict Trump and all this kind of stuff, right? So that's why they were pushing the Georgia case as the first one is the lead case to set the pattern for the rest of them. And so because she got all these indictments and all this kind of stuff, and had a friendly jury lined up, and then it comes out typical Democrat, okay, typical corrupt Democrat, okay, has her boyfriend on
who's
on the
only
payroll.
who's only ever done like your DUI
DUI cases,
citations.
traffic cases, and now he's lead prosecutor or lead consultant on prosecuting President Trump in Georgia. And they made, by the way, they paid for him to go to Washington to the White House to meet with the White House counsel
disgusting.
Twice. So
It's
there's
disgusting.
coordination going on with the Biden White House on this.
Yeah.
Which should be, everybody should be outraged about that to begin with.
They do whatever they want, John.
But the fact that she hires him and I think it was like $200, $250 an hour, something like outrageous amount of money for what his background is, and then his billing has been almost $1 million in billings. They said one of his timesheets, they had him. He was billing for 24 hours in one day.
I heard about that. I mean, I work a lot, but come on. Oh my gosh.
I work my butt off too. I've worked some 20-hour days, but I've never billed a 24-hour day. I mean, that's just past ridiculous. And then he takes her on all these expense paid vacations, and it's like, wait a minute. She's authorizing millions of dollars to this clown, and then she turns around and gets to go on a cruise with him for free. I mean,
yeah.
it is corruption. It's public corruption. And
everywhere.
Everywhere. Finally, the Fulton County Commission has finally decided to look into it, to figure out what's going on here. I don't understand why the judge, and I know the judge has given her time to respond, but the judge ought to be outraged at what's being perpetrated on his courtroom with these actions. But it's just standard Democrat, though. It's a standard Democrat. And, of course, the Democrats just wink, nod, say, yeah, it's whatever. It's Trump. It's Trump. Everything is fair, when it comes to get Trump. It doesn't matter how many laws we break, how corrupt we are. As long as we get Trump, that's the only thing that matters. And that's a sick. That back to CNN, It's just a sickness, Trump.
They were loving it. I'm telling you, loving it. But when you're listening to Veronica Live, and when we come back, we're going to have Drew Allen join us, our Millennial Minister of Truth, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to Veronica Live, and we are here with our favorite Millennial Minister of Truth. Joining me on the Veronica Live COVID edition. I'm barely making it, Drew, but the steroids are getting me through for your interview. Welcome back, my friend.
Hey, well, you're powering through. I'm proud of you, honestly, and I can relate because I've had it a couple of times, and I know what you're going through now because you have the worst of it, and it's brutal. And the fact that you're here right now, unbelievable.
Yeah, no, I literally almost canceled, but I was like, sometimes, I told John this morning, we're fighting for America, and if we don't fight through it, who's going to? But breaking news on my phone, I guess Trump had originally offered JFK Jr. the VP, or JFK Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the VP slot. This is how delirious I am on Dayquil. So is this a delirious offer that he's like, well, maybe, to have a Dem on the ticket? Breaking news?
Oh, wow. I hadn't seen that. So wait, so the deal is that he has supposedly behind closed doors offered that to RFK Jr.?
Yes, just out right now. My phone.
I'm not sure. I actually don't like it. I understand why some people do think it's a good idea. I think it's a horrendous idea just because of, frankly, Trump's age and the fact that the deep state, who knows what they could do to him. And if you're left with RFK Jr., the problem is, people love RFK Jr. for his position on vaccines and COVID.
Right.
That's about the only position where he's got alliances with the right. Everything else, he's a far left Democrat on everything.
Right.
And yeah, he's come out lately and said stuff about the border, but everybody should be on that page about the border. But when it comes to the economy, he's a socialist. These programs, he's bad for the country. I don't care if he's nice. I don't care what Jimmy Carter was nice, and look what happened. So I don't like it at all, actually.
John, I'm a pro-lifer. There's no way he could be on the ticket at all.
I don't think the MAGA people would take him, and the fact that you point out he's a liberal, at the end of the day, and he does more damage to the Democrats because he's going to suck their votes, not MAGA votes. So he really adds nothing to the ticket.
No, he doesn't. I'm not looking. Look, if we can't get some of these disillusioned Democrats or, kind of Reagan Democrats to come over just because of reality, what's happened with the Democrat Party and using Trump as a reason, then we don't deserve to win. I'm sorry. If we have to start running Democrats to win elections, kiss this country goodbye.
Yeah, the one I like so far that I've heard is Sarah Huckabee Sanders. I'm absolute fan of hers and her dad. We know they just live right down the road here, about 40 miles away from us. But really great, and they would bring the evangelical vote like you wouldn't believe, So I really hope he goes with her.
Yeah, look, let's take care of the conservative voters who've been supporting you the whole time. Let's not try and go and pander to Democrats now, huh? Let's not betray us, please.
Well, on that note, we've got two hot stories to talk to you about. And the first one, of course, is that lovely woman being awarded $83 million for Sticks and Stones Will Break My Bones, Drew.
So I'm not going to be nice now. E. Jean Carroll is the self-described slut who won't shut up. She is a slut, and she's the most raped woman in America. And I don't say that lightly. I know people who've been through trauma.
Ouch.
My point is she hasn't, or maybe she has. But if you go back to her history, she's basically accused every man who's ever made eye contact with her of raping her. Right. And so this is why I'm taking this approach. I'm not being, believe me, there are people in my life, and I understand, and I actually despise these people. Trump is not somebody who raped her. Also look at her, by the way, even when she was young. But secondarily, the most important thing to remember is this is all a con job. This is how sick the Democrat Party is. I knew this. I wrote about it in my book, actually. I get into detail about this. Not what happened now, but the original case. So, you have to remember that E. Jean Carroll accused him of raping her in a Bergdorf Goodman changing room, dressing room, if you will, I got almost 30 years ago. And she couldn't even remember the actual date. She didn't know what year it was even. It was maybe in this year, maybe in that year. And she didn't talk about this issue until she came out with a book talking about all of her rapes. And it was on the coattails of the Me Too movement. So obviously you're already suspicious. Wow, you didn't have an issue of bringing this up ever. And now you're bringing it up to sell your book and get interviews. And of course, she went on Anderson Cooper famously and said that her rape was sexy. And that's why, it was an insult to real rapes because her rape that Trump committed was sexy. That's what she said. This is a lunatic. And so you have to remember, obviously, if something happened 30 years ago, the statute of limitations rightfully prevents that from being brought against you in a court of law, an event that happened that long ago. So what New York did, the state of New York, Kathy Hochul, she signed a law that was the Adult Survivors Act, I believe is the name of it. And this gave a 1-year window for anybody who had ever been raped in their entire life, whether it was 100 years ago or 50 years ago, they could go ahead and come forward and sue the person. And so that's what opened the window. And Reid Hoffman, who's a far-left donor, he's funding the Nikki Haley campaign as well. He's one of the co-founders of LinkedIn. He funded her entire operation. He funded her lawsuits. And amazingly, E. Jean Carroll claimed that she didn't know about it when it was revealed. I didn't know. You didn't know who was paying all these millions of dollars in lawyer fees for you for all these years? So obviously, she took advantage of, or frankly, I believe it's probably more truthful, that this entire Adult Survivors Act was concocted to allow this hit job on Trump. And E. Jean Carroll is not mentally well in the head, emotionally, spiritually, in any way whatsoever. So she was the perfect candidate to go ahead and go on TV and call rape sexy and follow through with this. And here's what's most important for everyone to remember. This did go to court, and it was a civil trial. And you have to remember that the preponderance standard, the proof, it's not 100%. It's not beyond a benefit of the doubt. It's 51%. So she accused Trump of raping her. And even the far left jury that found him guilty did not find him guilty of rape. They found him guilty of battery. So what they did, basically, she said, he raped me. And the jury said, well, there's no evidence for this. We don't believe it. So therefore, they decided, well, we'll just downgrade it. Maybe he battered you. We'll go with that, battery. We can't go with rape because, there's no evidence, but there's evidence for battery. And so who is defamed who here? You went to a jury accusing him of raping you, and the jury didn't even believe your claim. And now you're going after Trump and saying he defamed you when you've been in the news accusing him of rape, which he didn't actually ever commit? Give me a freaking break. So the law is dead. New York has been taken back over by the Redcoats, just like it was during the American Revolution, and it is not a safe haven for anybody who's an American.
I was amazed at the judge, as far as like telling Trump what he could and couldn't say, and telling his lawyer what they could say in closing arguments. I mean, it's like, wait a minute. He's entitled to defend himself, and he wants to make alternative theories. That's his business. The judge can't sit here and say, well, you're not allowed to defend yourself, basically.
Well, it's a banana republic. And then I was telling John earlier, Drew, now that I fly up to like New York quarterly, if you're in that store that they supposedly were raped in, it's a high-end store, so you would never be left alone in the dressing room because they're constantly waiting on you. So none of this is true. None of this.
Exactly. What, you're just in there? You don't make a peep. You got a Bergdorf Goodman full of people and everything else, and you're just silent. What you got, a gun?
No. Okay. Well, look, that was a crazy story from yesterday.
Yeah, Trump's arrangement syndrome is real.
It's out of control, but it continues. And you are a Texas guy, and Texas they're defending their sovereignty with all of their razor wire, and then the Supreme Court comes out to include John Roberts and Amy, whatever her name is, Amon Dayquil, and the Supreme Court says they can take away that razor wire and have this free-for-all border. And Texas is saying no, and every Republican governor, I think every single one, has said, we stand with Texas. So what's going on in America now that Texas needs to break away to defend their own state?
Yeah, well, firstly, and again, I don't throw this out flippantly, the Biden administration, those responsible for this illegal invasion, are guilty of treason. That's very real. That's the crime. And we know what the consequences for that are. But anyway, look, in relation to the border situation, I want to point something else out. And people might have to stick with me for a minute to believe me. But this is really actually kind of a civil rights movement that is what's really happening at the border. If you remember, obviously, prior to 1964 and kind of the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, beginning in kind of the 1954, mid-1950s there, you had the civil rights movement that developed, and you had the sit-ins, and Martin Luther King Jr., of course, became really the face of that movement that we still remember to this day. And that, of course, was about something that was unconstitutional that was happening in this country. Southern Democrats were discriminating against Black Americans. Despite the fact that we had a civil war, despite the fact that amendments were written to right that wrong, you still had people in this country who were depriving Blacks of their rights. And it was not lawful, but they got away with it. They had power in Washington, D.C. They had power in these states. And so anyway, after, really a history of abuse, Blacks experiencing abuse by the hands of Democrats, they finally developed the civil rights movement, and that's what it culminated in, of course, that big situation that took place for about a decade. Well, if you look at what's happening at the border and in this country today, we also have a civil rights movement. And it's not just about blacks. It's not just about Republicans. It's actually about every single American. That is, we have a tyrannical government that is abusing its power. It has taken power that is not even constitutionally given to it. Remember, the Constitution limits what the government can do, not what the American citizen can do. So we have an out-of-control, all-powerful central government, a federal government that does not abide by the law, and they are unaccountable. And so that is showing its face now at the border, where the Biden administration, of course, is not doing its duty. There's been no accountability for this. And, of course, it's treason. And so they are not defending the American people. They're not defending our national sovereignty and our border. And you finally have Governor Abbott, who really deserves credit, is bravely stepping up, and he is doing what the federal government refuses to do. And not only that, this federal government is sabotaging his own efforts to do what the federal government is supposed to do. And so a lot of Americans are viewing this like a civil rights movement. All of the abuse by the FBI, of what they've done to Trump, of what they've done to the J6 protesters, all of these violations, all of these crimes that the government has committed. Well, now people feel like maybe the state of Texas stands a chance at standing up to the federal government, whereas the individual citizen stands no chance at all. And so that's how I view what's happening at the southern border. It's not just about the border, although that's very, very important.
Correlation.
It's about a broad, and I hope that Governor Abbott will stand strong. He should. He's got 25 Republican governors now behind him, and the Border Patrol union came out, at least those representing the individuals in Texas, working in Texas, and said we are going to respect Governor Abbott's rulings, commands, whatever else, that he gives the National Guardsmen, and we're not going to turn this into some kind of war. So they don't have Biden's back.
It's across the board. You see all the garbage going on about the border, Ukraine, Israel aid bill, and everything. And I'm laughing when I'm watching this sausage making. It's like, I guess Biden came out and said his minimum number of acceptable illegals is 110,000 a month. That's the minimum he'll allow. And I'm sitting there saying to these, particularly Langford, Senator Langford, what is it in your mind that you think you can pass in a law that's going to stop what's going on, that there's not already a law in place? It's just not being enforced. They have no intention of enforcing anything that gets passed. And so why pass anything? You've got plenty of laws. What's going on with these idiots?
Brilliant point. They need to listen to you carefully there, because that's the whole problem. It's that the problem with this administration is they are not enforcing the laws that are on the books. That's why I'm having the treason conversation. They are supposed to uphold the Constitution. They're supposed to uphold the laws of the land, and they're intentionally not doing so. And so you're right. What law? It's kind of like the gun thing too. It's like, oh, gee, let's pass a law to prevent murder. We have one. It's illegal to commit murder. I mean, what do you want to do? Take people's guns? I mean, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, this is all just a joke. There's other schemes going on. And now they're trying to blame Republicans. And if Republicans, frankly, aren't smart, or even just, not stupid, they will get destroyed on an issue that they should be winning on. And we have, Mitt Romney and some other conniving anti-Trump, anti-American RINOs in there that are already working with the Democrats to do this. This is why it's so important. And I wish that these Republicans, I hope somebody's listening now, because if they don't start impeaching Mayorkas, if they don't start pushing their own legislation forward to deal with this in some serious way, to show the American people they're serious. And impeachment is the most important thing they can do, because it's the clearest sign that they're actually serious people about the border. Because if they don't do that, the Democrats are going to blame Republicans. They're going to say it's not true, but there's a lot of stupid people out there, and they own a lot of the media still. They're going to say that, they're already saying it. Trump and the Republicans don't want to pass anything to solve this, so it's their fault. But the bill that the Biden administration and RINOs, this bipartisan legislation that are trying to pass in the Senate too, it's like the Inflation Reduction Act. It's on its face. It's a lie. It says it's going to address inflation. It has nothing to do with inflation. This border bill they're talking about funds Ukraine, And actually it gives money not to do anything to secure the border. It gives money to help process them faster, because the problem for the Biden administration is not the illegal invasion. It's that it can't happen faster. We can't get more illegals across the border because we're limited by personnel.
Yeah.
Well, I was laughing. It's like, yeah, we need more border agents to make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. That's the problem.
So Drew, were you shocked by Justice Amy Coney Barrett not supporting Texas?
Not when I look back at her history and her record. Actually, there were a lot of smart people. I wasn't one of them because I wasn't really doing this back then. But they kind of looked at things she'd written in the past, kind of her record, if you will. And they said, I'm a little bit worried about her being a pick. Now, look, she's Catholic, and so, who knows? If the Pope changes his position, like the demon that he is, maybe she'll go along with it, just like Democrat voters who are like, no, we want abortion to be safe, legal, and rare. And then, Hillary Clinton says, no, let's have infanticide. And all the Democrats scream, yay, infanticide. Well, it's the same thing if you follow this Pope. But anyway, so she was good on the abortion issue on that. That was obviously unconstitutional anyway, Roe v. Wade. If you have a brain, even leftist scholars were saying, I can't believe we got away with this. But anyway, I don't know. I'd have to look into it more, but there are other people who weren't surprised by it. But she seems to be like another John Roberts. And I don't know what the explanation is behind this. I don't know how at this time in history you can support this administration and their lawlessness, and that's basically what she did. She sided with the tyrants, and people. It's really that simple. We're in a war between it's tyranny versus freedom. That's really what it's about right now.
Well, it's sad when Uncle Festerman, comes out and says we're being invaded, 300,000 migrants, and it's like, wait a minute, isn't he a Democrat that's got a brain problem? Oh, wait a minute. He makes sense. Maybe that's what it takes to have a brain problem.
So the other big hot story was Nikki Haley in New Hampshire, and she's still not going away, Drew. And then DeSantis dropped out, and I think you said it before. Why aren't we just running with Trump as our guy? And I really can't take any more Nikki Haley. So how can you save us from her?
Well, honestly, what we need to start doing on our side is pretending. Not giving her any even media attention. Just ignore her. Let her sit there like a crazy loon that's running this shadow campaign that's never going to get anywhere. Just let her humiliate herself. Treat her like this ugly stepchild. This is how we need to treat her. It's a joke. We don't want her. Nobody wants her. The only reason she's in there is because Reid Hoffman, the same person that funded E. Jean Carroll's lawsuit against Trump, is funding her campaign. So she can stay in as long as there's money, and the Democrats are backing her because she's the agent of chaos. She's the one to prevent us from finally kind of just truly rallying around our candidate, naming him, the nominee, and destroying the Democrats. As long as she's in there, it kind of distracts, it divides us to some extent, and it's a waste of time. Everyone needs to be talking like it's Trump, making that defense. Kind of like, remember when the Democrats stole the 2020 election? They came out immediately while all the fraud was evident. We were trying to investigate it, and they're like, they wanted to remind us, that President-elect Joe Biden, it's all over. Bush came out, it's all over. 6 hours after, they counted the final bust-in bin of ballots. They pulled out from some crevice below the floor in one of the counting places. And they're all like, it's over. Joe Biden's the victory. That's what we need to be doing actually with Trump. Is like, it's over.
Okay,
so
now here's the big story, Drew. You're a California guy, okay?
Sean's got a
One
good
of my favorite places, In-N-Out, is closing their Compton store or Oakland store. What's going on out there that they're having to close an In-N-Out? And are they coming to Florida anytime soon?
Hey, well, actually, I have some inside information about this closing in Oakland. One of my best friends out here is a firefighter in Oakland. And that location he's been on before for calls because there's gunshots and gang violence all around there all the time. And so it's an unbelievably unsafe location now. All kinds of violence happening in that particular place. And that's where this In-N-Out happens to be. And so, it's pretty shocking. They're actually shutting down the In-N-Out because it's not safe for the employees. I imagine they don't want to go to work anymore. And it's just insane that it's gotten to this point. But that's what's in store for the rest of the country, of course, everywhere you are, everywhere you live. If you continue to support the Democrat Party, those policies by design lead to that kind of chaos. And the only person who benefits from things like that are the tyrants who can use that as a excuse and reason to seize more power. They'll take your guns away and leave you defenseless in there. And what are you going to do? You're going to have to beg the Democrats to please protect you.
Well, the funniest line in that story, because John sent it to me for our afterburner stack, was roughly 1 out of every 30 Oakland residents has had their car stolen this year. That's insanity. Who's in charge over in Cali?
Yeah. Well, he's out there spreading his message about what a great governor he is and how great Texas, how great, it's just amazing, these people, these complete dip, you-know-whats. They just no self-awareness. They don't care. You run the worst state arguably in the country. You've run it into the ground worse than anyone even before you. And you're out there talking about how great you are when meanwhile, all the evidence is people are getting the hell out of here.
Yeah.
Me.
Well, I thought the other one was funny. One was whether it was an assemblyman that came up with this idea that let's make a law that says cars can't go more than 10 miles an hour over the speed limit, And I'm like, only in California would somebody come up with that stupid idea.
It's unreal. This is the incubator for bad ideas.
Well, you are the Millennial Minister of Truth, but you're also a true patriot. And you were, I wanted to ask you about that interview you had across the pond with the Brits, and they had such a Trump hater over there, and you took him on. So you were slaying that British dragon.
Oh, yeah, I cleaned his clock easily. He was a stupid person because he's a communist. So it's not that hard to deal with him. The only problem is usually they get on these programs and they spout their propaganda, and there's nobody to stand up to them. They just get away with it. It's like watching what's the show? He and his wife do the weekend show. Joe Scarborough. He gets on there and spouts the same propaganda. Yeah, and there's nobody to push back. That's what this guy did. So I cleaned his clock. It was humiliating for him. It looked like he was going to cry on live television. I hope I get to do it again because I want to make him cry.
Well, now give me a tip, Drew, because I always have trouble trying to get down to their level of stupid to even address.
Oh yeah.
Argument.
Yeah. Well, I think I don't know if it will work for everybody. I mean, kind of where I'm at, I'm just so fed up with him that they don't stand a chance because I'm a very intense person sometimes, and they can't deal with my intensity. So they can say whatever they want, and they can't overcome the energy that I have. I mean, they just don't want to deal with me because I'm scary. I mean, that's really what it comes down to.
And I don't know if you. This is meant as a compliment, by the way, but you kind of remind me of Ben Shapiro in your approach. And he's very sharp with the people that come at him as stupid, and then just takes them apart.
Well, yeah, exactly. And look, I reserve that for people who are already kind of coming from my jugular. The only thing that people like that understand is pain. So I'll give it back to them, and that's what deals with it. But with other Americans, I'm not that way. If somebody wants to talk about politics with me, I don't have even the tone and tenor in my voice that I have now. That's kind of pointed. I can be relaxed and I can be open-minded and kind, but it depends if I'm dealing with a kind person who's just genuinely misinformed, or if it's somebody who knows exactly what they're doing and they're trying to destroy the country. If somebody's coming at me and their musket's not loaded and they're confused, I'm not going to react by firing at them, right? But if they're coming at me with a bayonet, I'm going to put my bayonet in front of me.
But we had that conversation with Rachel Ehrenfeld this morning, the Soros Agenda book author, and that was one thing we really couldn't ever wrap up was what is his objective? I mean, obviously he's trying to destroy the country, but what's the end game? Is it just pure anarchy? Is there something that he wants that he has a vision of, or is it just be anarchist and destroy everything?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, it's confusing with people like that. I don't know, because how much of the government is Soros really running, with his money and his influence, So what is in it for him? And with somebody like Hitler, what his kind of objective was. And that's more understandable. I mean, I'm not saying anything he did was right, but I'm saying you can understand what his objective was. His objective was, even though he didn't have blonde hair, he wanted this master race, and he wanted to rule the world with the Aryan people. He hated Jews. One of them, obviously did successfully terminate and murder and slaughter so many of them. But you understand what he was after, But he kind of had this weird, he thought Germany should be, this magnificent leader of the world. What's weird about kind of these globalists and the people in America that are in the Democrat Party is like they hate America. So I mean, usually these tyrants they're like nationalists, right? So like Napoleon, he was a proud Frenchman. These people are proud of their nations and they want their nations to be successful and great. And in our case, the Democrats hate America and they want to destroy it. So I don't really know what's really in it for them. I don't know what the end goal for Soros is. If you were to destroy America and rebuild it, I mean, does he have a name in mind? The Soros state. I mean, what is he after?
Sorry,
he doesn't like the commies. The oligarchs in Russia, are wrong. I mean, it's like okay, you've got all these different forms of government, but and you claim there's something better out there, but it's this open government or open world. It sounds it's chaos, or maybe it's just reserved for the Davos crowd to be the ones that go out there and decide everything for everybody.
I think so.
Well, what's weird? Yeah.
No, go ahead, Drew.
Well, they hate human beings. I was just going to say, if you read into a lot of these people at the World Economic Forum and that crowd that influences a lot of the kind of Democrat Party and even RINOs today too, the kind of globalist mentality. If you get into it with AI and everything else now, it's weird because they're anti-human. So they do talk about population control and things like that, and that's kind of I don't know. You've had people out there that supported population control, obviously, by eradicating blacks or eradicating Jews. I mean, the Democrats used to put abortion clinics in black areas because they wanted blacks to kill themselves. Kind of self defeat themselves. So I don't know, but it's weird. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I can't imagine being born and having such evil kind of percolate and then really take over your heart and soul, that these are the thoughts you wake up with every day. Like, it's like I wake up and like I'm excited. I get to come on and talk to y'all. Like my daughter this morning, so funny and so cute, and we had pancakes for breakfast. And I think about productive things I can do. I want to work in the garage today and clean it up. I want to do things that build and improve, and that's most of us. And then you've got these other people that wake up every day in a cloud of darkness, true darkness, and they want to tear everything down. But not just for themselves; they want to inflict it on other people, and it's spiritual, I think, at some point.
No, he doesn't have God. He's in the book. It says he's agnostic, which I feel that I felt that he was that way, anyways. But another thing I wanted to ask you about is that transgender swimmer Leah Thomas is like secretly fighting to try to get into the Olympics, and then we had that transgender golfer this week. When is enough? I can't compete against a man that's got boobs bolted on him that's 6'3", especially when I'm on Dayquil, Drew.
Yeah,
enough is enough.
I know. Look, I think this is getting to a point where it's going to come crashing down. The problem right now is most people feel like all of us do that are sane. They don't need, a brain implant, amputation, whatever. And this is, but the problem is, the committees, right? The people that run these organizations, the Olympics and so on and so forth, they are on board. Like the problem is all of these lunatics have basically, because they're activists and they have a goal and we're just kind of living our lives, they're actually seeking out to take over these organizations so that they can do this to us. So most people aren't on board with this, but the Olympic Committee or whatever, I mean, they have the final say, so they can say, yeah, we'll change it all. I mean, everything has been infested, frankly, by these lunatics, from the Medical Association, the American Medical Association. I mean, you name it. I mean, is there an organization left has no credibility anymore, but is there an organization left that hasn't been taken over by these radical leftists? I mean, everywhere you look, they've taken over. And so we have this conflict because obviously they're making decisions and supporting things to change our society in ways that we don't agree with, but it's happening anyway.
Yeah,
So,
well, it's
so
just out of control.
Do you think DEI is reached its zenith and is starting to descend, or is it just going into hiding?
Starting with United Airlines.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it hasn't come to an end for those same reasons. I mean, are heads rolling over it? Have people been fired? I mean, apart from the one victory at Harvard with the
Dr. Gay,
quota hire, Dr. Gay, the plagiarist. I mean, but is Harvard really going to change? I mean, no doubt Harvard's reputation is just in ruins. I mean, it's in tatters. It does not have the credibility that it used to have. I mean, even I graduated from high school in 2005, and I went to kind of one of these elitist all male prep schools. So we were a bunch of smart guys. We got into the best schools. I happened to go to Pepperdine, which was a great school. But I had friends who they went to Harvard, they went to Yale, they went to Princeton, they went to all these things. And I remember at the time I had a friend, John. She got into Harvard. And I thought, man, that is the coolest thing ever. This guy's going to Harvard. Well, this is like the smartest guy I know. And of course, now I look at it, and if somebody told me they were going to Harvard, I'd say, oh my gosh, are you pro Hamas? Are you a terrorist?
That's so true. Well, what are we missing, Drew? I mean, the world doesn't stop. We've got George Soros putting millions everywhere. I'm a COVID queen. John and I are slaying dragons today, and we can't slay enough of them. I mean, 2024, your book, America's Last Stand's amazing, and it counts more than ever this year, our election cycle.
It's funny what happened. Because, I wrote so America's Last Stand, the premise is it's going to be a rematch between Trump and Biden or some other Democrat they replace him with. And so my book makes a definitive argument to reelect Trump in 2024, but it came out in last October. And so it's becoming more relevant now because I was kind of ahead of the curve, if you will. Yeah. And it came out at a time when people didn't. It's funny. I mean, I feel kind of good. I mean, obviously the publisher's happy too. Can you imagine if I wrote a book and it was like, it's going to be DeSantis versus, I mean, I wouldn't have a book anymore. It'd be a biggest waste of money
DeSantis.
ever. Yeah. No, not for 2024 anyway. But
exactly.
it's wild. I just think, we have these conversations and they get a little intense and serious sometimes. That's because I love the country. But I am optimistic. I never want to be mistaken for somebody who's given up on the country. I talk like this with this kind of energy because I wake up with a zeal. Like I'm weird because in the face of all this stuff, I get excited because I'm kind of a fighter. So I was kind of born for this kind of environment because I actually like it. Like some people hate confrontation. I love confrontation. I look for confrontation, which is obviously not good sometimes. Like driving down the road, you don't want to look for confrontation, But
not in California.
But I'm wired this way. Yeah, not in California. I'm wired this way.
Well, your book, again, it's on Amazon.com. It's doing great, America's Last Stand. And we always got to have you on because you're fighting the fight over in California on the West Coast. And we got you covered in the Panhandle in Freedom, Florida.
Yep. You can go enjoy another cup of coffee and contribute to climate change.
And some Napa wine. Well,
That's
have
right.
a blessed day, Drew. And thanks for coming back on Veronica Live. You're one of our family members.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. Y'all have a good rest of your day.
All right, thanks. We'll be right back on Veronica. Okay, welcome back to Veronica Live. And John, I was telling him several years ago I applied to be a Chick-fil-A owner because I would love to have some Chick-fil-A right now with my Dayquil craziness. This is the COVID edition of Veronica Live today. So, but yeah, go get me some Chick-fil-A from Georgia and drive it on your tractor, John.
It'll take a few days to get there.
Oh my goodness. But yes, we're in the last throes of it here, but our afterburner was so on fire. So as soon as we're done chatting these stories, I'm definitely going to get in my warm toasty bed and fight this COVID off. But I love the story about Fetterman strikes again, speaks out on the border crisis invasion of 3,000 immigrants. Wow, he's becoming my new favorite Dem that I wanted to go bye-bye, John. Talk about that story with me.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting, and I'll start out. I call him Uncle Festerman,
Mr.
but
Hoodie.
well, he had a stroke, of course, and then he had depression and all kinds of problems.
Right.
And he even forced the Senate to actually adopt a formal dress code
for 2 minutes.
He showed up at the hoodie there, to preside over the Senate in a hoodie, a first, by the way. But I read a book years ago about liberalism being a mental disease. So I'm wondering if he had a stroke. So your brain after a stroke rewires itself. Is what I understand from the medical folks there. So I'm just wondering if his brain was liberal before and it rewired itself into normal, and now he understands we're being invaded by all these migrants. Like it's pretty obvious what's going on. You don't have to. I don't care what your politics are. 100,000 plus a month coming in. And on occasion 200,000 in the past couple of months coming in is crazy. It's just. And they don't want to stop.
Fair to the people. It's not fair. I mean, and so he went on CNN and he said, and I think two things can be true at the same time. You can be very supportive of immigration, which you and I are, John. We're pro-legal immigration. But he said we also have to have a secure border. And he said, I think about immigration is we want to provide the American dream for any migrant, but it seems very difficult when you have 300,000 people showing up encountered at our border to do that. And I think we need to do a reset, and we have to work together. And listen to this, he said, and develop a new comprehensive solution. And that is legal immigration or worker visas, John.
Well, you go back to how do you bring in this many millions? Okay, I mean it's like at 200,000 immigrants a month, or even 100,000. You're talking 1 to 2 million a year. So in a term of Biden, we've had like at least 5 to 6 million that we know of that have come across. Plus all the quote gotaways, which they think maybe 25 to 30% at least at a minimum.
Terrorist.
Yeah, a terrorist. We don't know who these people are. They're working age men. They don't speak English, okay? Every one of these interviews I've seen, they have to speak to them in Spanish or some other language because none of them understand English. So it's like, okay, they're coming here. They don't understand English. They're being dispersed all over the country. And what do they end up doing? It's like the roofing crew that did my house. I went out there to talk to one of them. None of them spoke English except the lead guy, and he barely spoke English.
Well, you needed me to translate because I bought fine pizza. They all got pizzas.
Exactly.
But it's funny because there's a paragraph in the story, though, John. It says the emergence of Fetterman as the sanest voice in his party has been a big surprise, and he sounded like an old school Dem from bygone days ever since his hospitalization for treatment from clinical depression last year. So maybe he has been rewired.
Yeah, that's all I can hope is that his brain's been rewired to normal, and he's actually, he supports Israel. Imagine that, he's unconditional support for Israel, but and he sees the border crisis for what it is.
And I saw the Lieutenant Gov of Texas yesterday. So I guess the Supreme Court, said the razor wire needs to go away. And he's like, well, you can cut it, And so they're putting more out. And guess what? Since they put it out, nobody's coming through, and people that have lived there have said it's horrific. Dead bodies. There's just mess everywhere. All the burglary. I mean, somebody's got to protect Texas. Texas is standing up for Texas.
Well, when you look at it, it's a political theater in some respects, okay? Because we're talking about a 2.5 mile long park along the border, okay? There is a legal entry point, a legal border patrol entry point 2 miles away. So this isn't about stopping these illegal immigrants, illegal aliens is a correct term, by the way. Illegal aliens, that's the legal term for these people. Coming, they could walk 2 miles down. If they walked 1,000 miles to get there, they can walk 2 more miles down the road and cross at a legal entry point. But they want to make a point of snuffing Texas and saying, we're going to crush you. And Texas is saying we're not having any of it. If you don't like it, and it's one of the things I really admire about Abbott. If you don't like it, come in here and arrest the Texas Rangers and the Texas National Guard troops. Come in and arrest them if you think you've got it right. And the Border Patrol is like, now we're looking at a civil war. We're pretty damn close, and it's about time the states stand up for their 10th Amendment rights, which says basically what's not delegated to the federal government belongs to the states, and the states have every right to enforce their border. It's not the federal government's border; it's Texas's border, and they can do whatever they want on their border. It's their land. It's not federal land. It's Texas property. So,
and they've
endured I'm
much.
glad to see somebody standing up to it.
And you have to feel for these illegals too. And that was a funny thing. Kamala was interviewed by Katie Couric, I think it was, and I heard the soundbite, and she was like, "Oh, well, when Joe and I were first elected, we had a bill to, with the border, and it's the Republicans." I mean, and plus the woman. You talk about a bad week of sound bites. Her and Joe, they compete for the Oscar of bad soundbitery. It was horrible.
Our borders are who's going to find the root cause, right?
We're causing the problem. Oh my gosh!
She's going to find that Venn diagram root cause problem, with the yellow school bus.
Oh my God, that was like 5th grade, I think. Well, I wanted to talk too about the Kari Lake story, because that is insanity. That was in our afterburner stack, that the top GOP official that tried to bribe Kari Lake leaked audio shows, and he has since resigned, but he did meet with her. So I guess she must have taped this, because it doesn't say who taped it, right?
Well, yeah, she apparently taped it, and apparently, I
good
guess
on her.
They are or were friends, and it was at I think it was his home. But anyway, he was shocked that she taped whatever, and from what it's a soft bribery. It's the same thing we were talking about earlier. This soft bribery that goes on in Tallahassee. It's the same thing. It's like, well, we could get you on a board somewhere. Sort of like Nikki Haley, being on the board of Boeing Corporation.
Well, now she's worth $8 million.
Yeah,
Nikki.
Exactly. So it's how they line their pockets, as they get on these boards or they work for these foundations or whatever. And so the offer wasn't that unusual, and depending on how you look at it, it's like the guy was wanting her to run for governor and not run for Senate, because she came pretty close on running for governor. Maybe she tried again, she could get it. So I don't know how much of this was he being put up? Was there money? Is there a dark money person with a lot of funds that says I'm gonna take care of this? But it is politics as normal. This is exactly, you shouldn't be surprised at this. Look at the number.
Horrible.
Well,
but why do you think they wanted her gone, though? Because it was like, just go away for 2 years. How much do you want? He was like asking her to, write her own paycheck.
But he was wanting her to run for governor. He didn't. He thinks she would have been better. Remember, this is a state party chair. He thinks she would have had a better chance at running for governor than running for Senate. So what do you look at when you do the political calculus in Arizona? What do you have coming up for Senate? You've got Kirsten Sinema, who's running as an independent. You're going to have a Democrat, and you've got a Republican field that has at least 3. And I think we talked to the sheriff out there, right?
Yeah, Sheriff
that's
Lamb.
running one of her competitors, right? So she's got some strong competitors running for her in the Republican primary. If she loses the Republican primary for Senate, she's done for governor. She won't ever get into the governor slot. So I don't know how much this is party officials trying to manipulate candidates or push candidates to get them lined up to run, because I don't know if they have another strong candidate to run for governor in 2 years or not.
It's just shocking, though, and
it's not. Don't be shocked, because look again.
I'm
look
learning.
At Florida.
I'm learning the last
look at all
weeks that it's a mess everywhere.
I know, but look at all of our university presidents. Just about every one of them is a politician that's been retired.
True. Senator Sass was a senator from UF. The new president is from Nebraska. No, that's true.
Right. It's just full of former presidents of the Senate, former lieutenant governors. I mean, we've got to hold every one of those university presidents. They're not hired because they're educational experts. They're hired because they're political people, and that's a parking position for them. So, that's just the game that goes on all over the place, So they put you on a foundation. It's like the Penn Biden Foundation. Okay, the Chinese were $65 million in Chinese money went to Penn State to fund the Penn Biden Foundation, and that's where they parked Anthony Blinken and 65 other Obama people. For the Biden administration, they parked them until they got rid of Trump and moved them in, and then now they're all in the Obama Biden administration. So it's standard politics, and people are all like, "Oh my God, he tried to bribe her," and it's like I think the conversation, I think it was interpreted as a bribe, or it looks that way, to people that like Republican scandal, but I think it was just politics as normal and a conversation that happens a lot more than people care to think about.
It seems to be happening every day. The other story that was kind of intriguing is your morning cup of coffee contributes to climate change, says World Economic Forum expert. And I'm like, as I've had 2 coffees trying to survive the COVID today, I wanted to slap this person. And apparently my coffee emits 15 and 20 tons of CO2 per ton of coffee. Every time we drink coffee, we're basically putting CO2 into the atmosphere. Obviously, he doesn't want to see me without coffee. I would beat him up, John. Today I would.
I would offer up the thing that perhaps he should consider committing suicide, because every time he breathes out, he's contributing to CO, so many tons of CO, and then all the food that he's
eating. Apparently it's called ecocide that we're committing by drinking coffee. Get the hell away from my coffee. I actually have a Keurig and I call it, what is it, a Neo-espresso? I always call it. So I have two things going on downstairs. Nespresso. Yeah, I call it Neo-espresso. I don't know why. I made it my own name. But it says your morning coffee is destroying the planet. Okay, enough. Come take my Java. I'll fight you.
Well, these people are just crazy, and it's about imposing their will. And as somebody pointed out, his private jet probably emits that much CO in 4 miles. So.
Not if you're Taylor Swift. You get a pass. But no, the quote is, we're focusing our attention on regenerative food production. Why? Because 85% of the pressure on nature stems from our food system. So it is the development of regenerative food that will lock value in nature's assets. What the hell does that mean? In Tally, one of the bills that they were fighting was you can't make Petri dish food that turns into your hamburger.
Right.
and I was on board with that.
That's what they want you to eat. They want you to eat, protein,
no.
Synthetic meat protein and
I'm on steroids.
Soy and
Give
bugs,
me a prime rib.
Eat your worms and crickets,
Which I was asking my husband last night. I'm like, can you please make me a prime rib? Because I'm on steroids. I'm mean and I need meat. So, yeah. Somebody better bring me Chick-fil-A and a prime rib today.
I think these people watch too much Star Trek there, where the Klingons open up the jar of grubs, and start eating them.
The other stack... the other story in the stack in our afterburner. Well, this one piqued my interest. It was the Air Force now very weak, new report says, but Space Force is gaining strength. So I'm like, is this a slam the Air Force to promote Space Force? Is kind of how I thought about this story. But right now, apparently, according to the Heritage Foundation, the Air Force is continuing to spiral down. We're lagging in our mission capable rates, and aircrew training is very questionable. Our deployability is an issue because we're not practicing the way we fight. So it's pretty awful, this story that you sent me.
Yeah, and I don't think it was a hit piece. It was in the Air Force Times, and it was done by the study was done by the Heritage Foundation. They're reputable group.
No, definitely reputable, but promoting Space Force for sure.
But the thing is they're trying to give an honest assessment. Now the Air Force itself and the Navy is just as guilty. You're Air Force, I'm Navy. And I suspect the Army same way. They all self-congratulate each other on how well they're doing and how capable they are and all this kind of stuff. And when you come down to it, like in the Navy, the goal was, an 80% mission readiness for aircraft. Well, they've never got past 65%. So what does that tell you? It's like if you consider 80% to be the minimum mission readiness needed to defend this country, and the best you can do is 65%, that means we're not ready to defend this country. Is the bottom line, and that's basically what this story is saying.
Yeah. So one of the quotes is, if we were asked tomorrow to go to war against a great power, either Russia or China, which, oh, by the way, we're having issues with, would we be really ready to do that? Said the Air Force Secretary Frank Kendall in an August live stream. He goes, I think the answer is not, as much as we could be by a significant margin. And then another person's quoted in here saying that the Air Force has not invested enough in flying time to properly train aircrew for the kind of combat that they would face in a fight today, John.
Well, I experienced the same thing. We were doing stuff, frontline stuff, and there was always the issue about the training budget for flight hours, and being able to buy, expendable stores and that kind of stuff. And we'd go on deployment somewhere, and we'd be flying anti-submarine warfare stuff. We drop sonobuoys, to listen to the oceans to find submarines and stuff. And we'd be up there, and the inventory on sonobuoys would be like, we're running out. We are literally running out, and we're not going to be able to go do a mission because we don't have the expendable stores to drop to do the mission. And in one case, when we were in Iceland, they actually flew 2 C-5s full of sonobuoys up from Norfolk, Virginia, because we were in such desperate straits to where we were basically telling the operational commander, we can't do the mission because we don't have what we need. We don't have the supplies. And, same thing for gas money. It's like, where do we get gas money at? And it's like, okay, we've expended our budget for fuel for this quarter, so we can't take any more missions. And what always happened? We magically found money somewhere. There was always this infusion of money.
Well,
so you said, I can't do the mission. And that's the problem, Veronica. Too many of these commanders will not stand up because of their reputation, the reputational damage.
It's a political position.
Say, can't do it. Right.
I've learned that having a show for more than 3 years now. I've had these people. We know that when these generals get there, it's all about themselves. But one of the quotes in the story is, the last time fighter pilots received an average of 150 hours of flying time and more than 2 sorties a week, so that's two takeoff and landings a week for an entire year, was in 2015. The Air Force historic standard used to be 200 hours per year and 3 sorties per week. So, because you got to, again, train the way you're going to fight. And if you're not flying a couple times a week in your, amazing aircraft, you're not going to be that great when you go off to war.
Well, some of it I've always wondered about, because like F-22, for example, is very expensive. It's a limited resource.
And it breaks a lot.
Right. So is it making, and Malcolm would probably be able to answer this, or some of his fellow pilots would flying something less expensive, and I'll just throw out the F-5 type thing, not you don't need an F-35, but would something smaller.
Say F-16.
F-16.
Now, or F-15X.
Okay, I don't mind F-16.
But F-5, I think that's been retired for a long time.
Right, but something that's cheaper to fly and maintain, but you get the flying skills. You go out and you actually fly and do maneuvers and that kind of stuff. You can do combat maneuvers in F-16 or an F-22. I know it's not the same thing, but you're out there, you're getting the same physical, stresses and that kind of stuff, and the same situational awareness looking out the window. So it does have training legitimacy, but is that a way to address some of this stuff?
I think that's why they do a lot of sim time. When we've had some of the experts on here, they've moved to that. But the bottom line is, China's a threat, Russia's a threat, and then we've got a weak president. So everybody's laughing at us, and we've got to be top of our game. But the Heritage Foundation,
but the leadership
Go ahead.
The leadership has not changed. Start with Austin, who should be fired.
Oh my gosh.
After breaking the chain of command the way he did, that was just unforgivable. I don't care who you are. that's unforgivable to break the chain of
I
command
wonder
like
why
that.
he thought he couldn't tell people he was having prostate surgery and then ended up in the hospital for like 2 weeks and nobody knew. I mean, this is just what a cluster this Biden administration
But
is.
there's something going on there, Veronica, that we're not hearing about. There has
Yeah.
to be something behind this. There's more to this, a whole lot more to this story than what we're hearing. And
Or
I don't
maybe
think it's
it's
just
so
because
incompetent, the Biden administration, that these people in these key positions can't tell them anything. Maybe it's
well,
they're
you
saving
got
us
to
and we don't know. Give them the benefit of the
you
doubt.
have to remember the Secretary of Defense, General Lloyd Austin. Okay, he's a general. He understands chain of command. Okay, at least I hope to God he understands chain of command. He's just not a DEI promotion, but which I think may be a big factor
Well, I've
here that
heard
people don't want to
rumblings
talk about.
from general officers that he was. So, because,
Yeah,
this administration only cares about that, sadly.
right. So it's like he's in way is he in way over his head? Is that the problem? He's so
That
far
could
over
be.
his head. You just reach a certain level of the Peter principle, right? You have this certain level of competency that you will ever reach, and the only way to go after that is sideways. You never go up because you don't have the mental acuity to go up anymore. And people are people. Okay, you got people that are super smart. You've got people that are medium smart, and all the way down to people that are dumb and couldn't tell you what time of day it is. so recognizing that's a fact of life, and nothing you do is going to change that. You want back to it's a meritocracy. The military should be all about merit, nothing else. And
I
unfortunately,
agree. And
we've
so should
destroyed that.
United Airlines,
Right.
trying to promote DI. Well, I've got to talk about a few of these, I don't know, the Babylon Bee jokes. And one of my favorite ones is it's got a picture of Senator Ted Cruz, and he looks like he's got like he's popped out of the Civil War, and it says Ted Cruz grows out mutton chops in preparation for the Civil War. I do declare that the federal government has overstepped its authority. So hysterical. And then my next favorite one was Biden Abbott to face off in wheelchair joust to the death, and they're both in wheelchairs and fighting at the border. And then this one's so inappropriate but so freaking funny. Airlines offering $100 upgrade where you're guaranteed an old male pilot named Steve. So for your extra peace of mind flying. I mean, is our world not insane, John? Oh my gosh.
Does that include not being on a Boeing 737 MAX?
Oh, I know. With my missing bolt. No, my daughter was flying last night, and she texted me, and she goes, I always call them stewardesses, excuse me. The flight attendant asked if she wanted to sit in the exit row. And she texted me and she said, no, it's too much responsibility. I thought that was hysterical.
Yeah, so does that mean I have to hold the door in?
And then she's like, no, and then where do I put my bag, Hashtag millennial problems. First world problems. But no, the other thing is we're gearing up for the Super Bowl, and in our afterburner stack, Bud Light attempts a comeback with new Super Bowl ad after the Dylan Mulvaney debacle. So you sent me that, and I was like, this is stupid. I am over Bud Light. And so I went and found the little magic carpet ride hit. And I didn't understand it at all. So whoever they hired's an idiot, and they were taking my Dayquil, obviously, John. It was awful. It was awful. So I don't even know what the point is of this whole dumb thing. And then I will say they put out when I was Googling for it, there is a little Clydesdale 15-second teaser too. Okay, I'll take the Clydesdales. I love them, but I'm over everything else. So there.
So Veronica, you probably remember this from your military days, but
yes,
for every screw up, it takes 10 attaboys to fix it.
Well, once you pissed off this general, I'm not taking you back.
Right, there you go. So it's like, can they ever fix Bud Light? I honestly don't. it's going to be a long
No.
time. People are not going to forget it, and the fact that they lost so much market share and people moved off to other stuff, and
Well, I think it was
beer
$3
sales
billion.
right, but beer sales in general have declined significantly in the last year. So it's not only did they lose market share, the new market is now diminished from what it was before.
It's Negro Modelo, which is outstanding, by the way. If I could have one today, I would gladly.
I'm a Dos Equis here, or
there you
Blue
go.
Moon.
but the story has the new chief commercial officer said, we need to make sure for these moments of massive reach that we choose the right brands to meet the moment, not only on TV, but brands that really scale out the opportunity that Super Bowl and NFL playoffs and everything else provide. These are brands that we thought deserved that opportunity this year. Well, hell no, dude. I'm not drinking your water. And your woke water.
Well, you would think they would start with the beginning, right? The first principles kind of thing. It's like, who's your customer? Well,
I've seen them coming out of the grocery store, or when you're at the gas station and the dude's got the 24 pack and he's got his little one pack belly. But the guy continued, you're going to see what our brand lovers expect, which is some really funny advertising. Okay, that teaser was stupid and it did nothing for me.
And the problem was the lady that was in charge of Bud Light branding and advertising despised the customer, the frat boys. She did not like the frat boys, and it's like, okay,
or
so
you hate your
customer.
Boys that are buying it,
right? So you hate your customer. So I'm going to put in advertising that drives away the customers I hate, and try for this new people out there that don't exist, by the way, or will never drink their beer because they want to drink their wine.
Well, crash and burn, baby.
Find something or another. Yeah. So they deserve what they get. So.
Well, what have we missed besides I'm going downhill, going to crawl back into my Queen Bee COVID bed. What are we missing, John? It's been a crazy week. I mean, the whole Trump thing, 83 million, sticks and stones will break my bones over nothing, over a woman that I don't even think this was a real rape. And what's sad is that women that really are raped, this does not help them. I'm sorry. As CNN was like, this is so helpful for the world. No, because this is fake, and this doesn't help people.
Yep. So I want to throw in a plug for one of our political cartoons of the week, and it's a picture of this woman in an electric car, an EV, plugged into the charger.
So good.
And then there's this guy standing there with his tongue stuck to the pole the charger's mounted on because it's freezing cold. And the title is Dumb and Dumber 2, and it's Jennifer Granholm and Pete Buttigieg.
That's so funny because I originally thought that was a boy in the car. Now that you say that, I totally see the name. Okay, no more Dayquil for you, Veronica. No, that's so hysterical. No, it's been a mad, chaotic week, and hopefully, I mean, it's been a huge show. Gerry James running for District 7 over near the Jacksonville region. Definitely got to take out the bad guy that's went from 800,000 in his bank account to 14 million now, representing. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And then, oh my goodness, Dr. Rachel Ehrenfeld, The Soros Agenda. What an excellent book that is. I didn't know how bad Soros was. And then we're rescheduling Michael Waller, big intel, how the CIA and FBI went from Cold War heroes to deep state villains, because I had a migraine with the COVID last night, so I couldn't get through the book. And that's one thing. You come on Veronica Live, guess what? We're going to read your book and debate you and support you on it. And then
have an intelligent conversation about what's in it.
Oh my gosh. And the book is like 500 pages and it looks amazing. So I was like, no, I cannot. We're not a faker.
And it's so timely because it's really about what's going on. How do we fix the FBI? How do we fix the CIA? I mean, these are truly rogue. I don't even say almost become extensions of the Democrat Party in some, particularly the CIA. I think is whatever this modern
too.
Democrat Party is. Yeah.
And the book dropped last week.
Really,
it's got an endorsement from Tucker Carlson, so we'll have him back. I called him this morning and profusely I've never canceled a guest before, so that was huge. And then we adore our Millennial Minister of Truth, who's taken the battle like a true patriot across the pond. Go check out the Drew Allen show on Instagram, and he's on podcast everywhere too. He's amazing. But next week we've got a big show. I've got Bob White, who is the chairman of the Florida Republican Liberty Caucus that I've joined. He's amazing because we are trying to kick off the chapter here in the Panhandle, since I'm your new regional director, and he's truly fighting the fight with all these bills. And of course, we'll have some bigger guests. And John, thank you for surviving Dayquil Veronica Live co-host here. Time to snuggle with my babies in bed, the doggies, and they've been excellent nurses, actually. But God bless you, and be sure to check out our Facebook, Instagram. Veronica Live is always on, Spotify, iHeart, iTunes, Podcast Addict. We have a YouTube channel that I've started, so the last few episodes are there because I've had a lot of people want to get it from YouTube. So we're on YouTube too, John. So
we're going to start streaming it at some point, I hope.
Yep, and it's already on YouTube. And then please, John, send me some of that banana bread you were eating throughout the whole 3 hours, because steroids, I'm starving. All right, hugs to everyone, and God bless.
Have a good week.
Veronica Live out.